I think 1 o'clock is your lunch time. I don't want you should be deprived. You should be eat well and enjoy the food. So I will take up to 1:15. 1:15, then you go for a lunch, and after that there is a program where we are going to visit other places, right? So that we will do. But this is a 2 lecture volume. Uh, I may have to cover a little bit portion of this tomorrow, right? So let's start with this one. So we saw this one, the how the delegated system, non-delegated, what are the different organized, because I want to give you a kind of an idea how the regulatory system is there. That is why if it is a well-built regulatory system where you have the authority to run the programs, watch the program, and monitor the program, so it will not disturb, right? So that is why I wanted to make understand how this, why it is so important for you to understand this system, because even a little portion of this, if you were able to extend it, so see how this is done there, how we are doing, you should be have that understanding is important. We can keep a one step ahead. So that is our focus, right? Okay, so I want to give you, there are some slides, I can give you some quick flashes, then we will go. So this is the program here, you can also get it on the system. See, there are different states, 50 states that you know already. My state is here, Washington. Okay? Washington State, Washington DC. There are two different things. You should understand, because I myself confused when I was there, when I went there. So that's not a big deal. So these are 550 states where the program is implemented. See, the program is implemented all over the state, all over the country, right? So then there are some are delegated, some are, a new state is there where they don't have a resources. What they do, EPA directly involves and they start doing the things. It is not that the system is not there, you can just do anything, it is not there. There are three layer of coverage. One is the EPA, that is the central federal level, and state level, and the local level. Local level also very active. They say that we want our city. If city towns are run like in a business, it is not like that. We don't do anything, we don't pay tax. No, they, cities are also like that, small towns, where if you don't have a source, okay, we will provide you a source, we'll give you, fund you, but you have to run the your town, city as per the regulation. It is not like that, you don't have anything, I will do. No, that is not there. That is why it is very important in the field of environmental engineering, why it is done so much progress, right? So these are the states where the things are done, fully authorized, partially authorized, unauthorized, where the EPA or central federal government can directly oversee. So there is someone to watch you, provide you the regulation and watch you what you are doing, what is happening, right? So implementation, oversight, the POTW receive, review, how that program is done. I want to give you quickly a little bit about that. So direct oversight, industrial users, and POTWs, which are authorized by EPA and state. So what happens is, cities either authorized by, I mean the states, they can run the program, or the department, pollution control board, what you call here, it runs the program directly. That means we run the program directly. Then if it is the direct oversight, if there is a non-delegated area, if there is in a small town, one industry is there, then we enter there, we do everything, and they have to follow the rules. Of course, when they are discharging, nothing is free. That is one thing we should understand. Whatever you contribute, you have to pay money for that, if that is there. So that is how this system is done. Receiving, reviewing annual report, if we authorize, the city has to report, they report me for the eastern region. I see, oh, this is not going well, no, this is not going on, this is not acceptable, you have to do this way, otherwise we will withdraw, we will do this. That is a big enforcement there, no one can escape. Because then pre-treatment compliance inspections, we do audit, go and see. I do that for many cities. I go and see what they are doing 2 days, how their treatment plant is running, how you are doing the regulation. If anybody violates, what he will do. I don't want them to be a friendly person. You do anything, I will okay. No. If it happens, what you do, what you have done, what action you have taken. We see everything. There are resources also like that. People are also there who can do. Here also people are there, but only they have to do, right? There is no influence or anything is there, however big he is, right? So that is what the system is there. Pre-treatment compliance inspection audits, that means every 2 years we go and see what they are doing thoroughly, how they took care of them, was there any problem, how they dealt or not, what happened, whether your system is, because why? Cities treatment plant is the people's funded, right? You are protecting the income taxpayers, right? You guys have paid the money, you have the right. Suppose you are paying tax to the municipalities here, right? So you are the owner. That is what they say. People are the owner. So you have the right to ask them what is going on, right? So that is how it is. So that is why we do, you know, uh, public awareness, public notice. If any industry is coming, we say that we publish in the paper there also, there. Here also it is there for impact assessment and all. So I used to do it before. So you have a public implementation, but nobody sees anything. So that is different. But public notice is there. They can put in a notice, put in their questions. Which industry coming? What is coming? What you guys are doing? These people are doing here. What action you are taking? They can ask. You cannot just deny. It's all in the record, and any person can come in and see the records. What is happening? They have a right. You have to provide within 24 hours, within a week time, whatever it is. What is happening? They have the right. So people have the right there. They can do that. That is how its system works. So that we do, for which we authorize. And direct oversight means if there are nothing, no resources, no cities want to come forward to take the responsibility, then we issue the authorization directly. They discharge it to, still they discharge it to the city or town treatment plant, but they pay money. They have any agreement. City can always say, we don't want to take your wastewater because this is worst. You have to do this, then we'll take. They can deny. They have the right. So that is how this system works. That is why control mechanisms. What are the control mechanisms? Checks and balances. You will see at every step what is happening, right? And monitoring and inspect. You will monitor and inspect them, what they do. Receive and review reports. You can always receive the report. Hey, I heard that this is going on. I want a report. And also, once the authorization is given, there is a clause there. If any violation, whether it is a numerical or it is submission violation, they have to, if it is a numerical violation or if it is a frequency, suppose you have to monitor, they did not monitor. Oh, our instrument was not working. Okay, but you have to report that within 24 hours. You have to report, and in 5 days you have to send the detailed report. In the detailed report, you will say what was the reason, what happened, when you will repair, when you will put that into system. That is it. If it is going on frequency, then we can ask an engineering evaluation. Engineering evaluation in the sense, engineer will evaluate whether their system is really working. System exists. A professional engineer, PE. You see this one, PE is there. What is this PE? Professional engineer, right? After you make your degree or anything, you have a body which monitors. I will tell you sometime when you are in lunch and I'll detail how that works, because that is little, it take time. But quickly I will tell you, certified engineer can prepare a report and submit. Certified means he is perfect. They have to give an exam, they have to give experience, they have to upgrade themselves. Only they can certify. If just a degree holder or any masters, just they do, they cannot practice. They can do, they can work under a professional engineer. That is very important. To have a professional engineer means he has a responsibility. If I say for any industry, I will say I need a report from a professional engineer. That is there in our system. He will make a report means I am 100% sure. He won't make like that, because there is another body which always see what he does. He just cannot do anything. They lose their license. Your license will be renewed every time. What you do, how you manage. There should not be anything which is wrong. They are called professional engineers. Right? That is important. We say that if they did not report properly, then I can say that I need, if you are doing a frequently violation, then I will say no, it will go to the warning. You have to pay penalty. This much is the loss for that facility. If they are discharging something toxic and this treatment plant goes upset, they can recover the entire money from them. It is not like few dollars there. It may be thousands of dollars. That is why they are afraid. Always they don't do any mistake. If if it is they are doing a frequent mistakes, I can say no, I need a report from a professional engineer. You have to re-evaluate your system whether it is really working or not. So then no one want to go up to that. So that is what I'm telling. I will tell you when you are outside or anything, I will give you more information on that. That's why you try to ask questions, and whatever question is there, is it? So I teach the same thing to my students also there, right? What they do, we make sure that when they come graduation, you say you go work hard and get this license, do that. That is I will tell you outside. Right? So let's do this. This we covered. Then this is the enforcement. This is the dangerous. One river violation costed 1.2 billion to one industry. So these are the things there. If river is spoiled, it's a big money, right? So, but here also we should have the same system, right? Okay. So pre-treatment standards, generic and specific. Categorical standards, local pre-treatment standards. I told a little bit about that. Okay. We'll stop now. We'll go to the lunch. After that, there is okay. What is that? You tell me, because when I'm talking, I may miss your lunch time. So that's why I'm worried. Okay, let's talk about the pre-treatment standards. There are a generic or specific, correct? So general the standards means your biological, biochemical oxygen demand, that is a BOD is there, TSS is there, TDS is there, dissolved solid. Dissolved solid is a little bit more advanced one, dangerous one, right? So then ammonia is there, nitrates are there, phosphorus are there, they're all a generic one, right? Then the categorical standards, in the sense I told you about the metal industries, chrome industries, metal finishers, right? There are many industries which produces toxic substances. So Those are called categorical. But how they are differentiated? How they are differentiated? But we have a standard. If these kind of industries are there, they are generic. For example, you get all the packed foods, right? Food industries. You get your all carrots, fruits. They clean it, they wash it, they give a little treatment here and there, and then they pack it. They produce a lot of solids, suspended solids, right? And they have a large BOD also, right? So those are not toxic, but you cannot just discharge a large sum of suspended solids, high BOD, no, right? So that is why they are generic. Some industries categorical, they are produce 1,000 gallons or 2,000, 5,000, but they are very toxic. So in that case, they specify these are the industries come under categorical. So we have a special permit to watch on them, right? So that is there. For example, in a aeroplane manufacturing is there, automobile manufacturing is there. They use a lot of chemicals, right? Those chemicals will just come with the water, right? So in that case, you can put, there are some industries produce a toxic one as a categorical. It is left to you. You will assess. That is what I said. When a new industry come in, what happens? They will do an application, and these are the industry, this is our problems, these are the our products, and also we tell you submit an engineering report. Engineer will evaluate, professional engineer will evaluate and make sure that this is the industry, it produces this many toxics, these many things, how they will take care, how they will give a pre-treatment. They say that we will give a pre-treatment, we have primary settling tank, we have a clarifier, we do this much and then discharge. Okay, then we will stop. Then accordingly we give if it is a new, sometimes it is hard to fix the limits. We give a general limits. Then we say that after 6 months, it is going a little bit this side. So we revise that. We make sure that they are treating their stuff properly. So that is category. Local pre-treatment standard means some cities said, no, our treatment plant is very sophisticated, it has a less capacity. We will take only this much, 300 suspended solids, about 50 or 100 BOD. We cannot take more than this. So for industries, we can allow more little bit, but you have to treat certain things only with industry. Of course, how your domestic wastewater, your residential wastewater or domestic wastewater, which is coming from the house, what is its BOD? Around 300 to 400 maximum, right? That's there. But if it is the industry, 700, 800, 1,000, we say no, we don't allow this. Then the receiving treatment plant says we can't take more than 500, 600. You treat little bit from your side, then you can, like, otherwise you treat yourself, because they are small industries, right? They cannot have that much money to build a treatment plant. You need a volume also, right? You cannot build a treatment plant just for 100,000 gallons of wastewater produced, or 50,000 of 25,000, or less than 25,000. You cannot build treatment. That is why you give a little treatment and you make an understanding with the city. We do this and then discharge, we will pay you this much, like that. So that is why the system works like that. They may have an stringent rules, but you see, if you have a town where the river is flowing and you have a certain kind of fish where they need a high biological, high oxygen demand, high oxygen content in the river, you cannot just discharge and spoil the entire river, right? Many people dependent on the fish, right? and also drinking water. You cannot produce a certain wastewater there, discharge, which will cause an drinking water problem in the down the way, right? After 10 kilometer, 20 kilometer, there is a town, they should not suffer a problem. So these are the things, they are all evaluated. That is how it is evaluated when the industry comes in. But by this time, you can understand how they screen all the industries. There is no way that they can just come and start discharging anywhere. So these are the process. Until they say that go ahead, they cannot start, however it is. So that is how the system is built. Can be expressed in numeric limits, narrative prohibitions, and best management practices. Suppose there is an why that best management practice I want to highlight a little bit. So what happens is, in a town there is a car wash, right? Car wash produce sometimes toxics, oil and grease, right? If they just wash everything and discharge to sewer, no, it won't work. Because what happens, oil and gas, oil and gas, oil and grease, sorry, oil and grease discharged to the sewer line, ultimately it goes to the wastewater treatment plant. If oil and grease is there in the wastewater treatment, it will reduce your 50% of the treatment efficiency. What it forms? It forms a layer on the suspended solids. You know, it just spoils your entire the system. Biological system is destroyed. So that is why, even if they are doing a car wash system in the town, they have to take a permission from the city. They will say that these best management practices, you are a small person, a small unit, commercial unit, but you cannot do this. What you can do, you have a grease trap before the everything is washed. You will remove the foaming stuff, soaps and everything, and then you will discharge. You follow the best manufacturer. You have to pay this. We will inspect. They cannot violate. One thing you should always, I will not tell repeatedly, if they say that you have to do, you have to do. There is nothing that they cannot say they will do. Otherwise, they have to shut down in the down the way. So this is how, even for the small unit, is tracked that way. Correct? I will also give you another quick examples. If the restaurants are there, restaurants, they must have an oil and grease trap before they discharge their water. That is a separate fog program they run. City towns, they run the fog programs. They make sure that each restaurant has a unit there. That what it does, it removes the oil and grease and then discharge. And there is a person who can come every month, every week, or depending upon its capacity, they remove the oil and grease, then they put the new, not the new one, the same one, but the oil and grease is removed from the system. They take it for the treatment. That is another process which is will not do much focus on that. They collect from different places. I have an industry which does that, which collects all this oil and grease from different industries, different restaurants, then they treat. Is it? They make it so many products out of it. So that is how it is done. So that means even from the small restaurant, it is tracked. So that is how McDonald's or any other small restaurant there. So that is the mandatory. They cannot escape the system. So narrative prohibition and best management practice. So this is a general prohibition. Non-domestic dischargers may not introduce into POTW any pollutants which cause pass-through interference. That is the law. Any industry, commercial unit, or any industry discharging wastewater to the treatment plant, they should not cause any interference and pass-through. That is the law. That is the baseline. They can always say that they can stop they will not be taking their discharge. They have the right. They can stop accepting the wastewater coming from the respective industry. So that is, it is prohibition, and prohibition applies to each non-domestic dischargers introducing pollutant into the POTW, whether or not the non-domestic discharger is subjected to other national pre-treatment standard or any national, state, local pre-treatment requirement. See, such an important topic. Anyone cannot tell them that you accept, however it is. No, they can deny. It is creating a problem, issues with our wastewater treatment plant. You cannot just discharge. You imagine there is a restaurant which is causing, there is a commercial unit. If you say, if they are discharging, if the regulator says no, don't discharge, they have to stop. They cannot do. That is how I want you to tell about the system model which is existing, and here how it is. So you don't say that we can't do anything here. No, it is not like that. So, but understand the system slowly wherever, because wherever possible, it is possible to implement. How we implement, how we can improve, all those things has to be done, right? Specific prohibition, because there are a lot of systems, lot of laws. Specific prohibitions means, see, pollutants which create a explosion and hazard. If you are discharging which has a lot of methane, lot of toxic stuff which causes a explosion. That is why each industry, each unit, what they are manufacturing is important, right? If they are something coming into the system, your sewer line may blow up, right? And it may disrupt, it may cause a problem to the whole treatment plants. You don't want to mess the whole treatment plant which is built by the people, just by one industry, one person, like that. It is not a right, it is a privilege. You are helping them to accept the wastewater. You can understand the philosophy, how this is built, and it is working. That is why I am trying to tell you that the system which is built is working, right? So how best we can do it, that's all. Then the pollutant which cause corrosive structural damage to the POTW. If he is discharging a wastewater which has a pH of 3-4, what happens? All the sewer system will be corroded, right? Your whole treatment plant, all what the iron system or everything is there, it will just spoil in 5 years. Do you want to accept? Suppose if you are a boss of a treatment plant unit, you may, and some of you may be already, right? So what you will do? What is your job? Your job is to protect, right? So that is why I am telling you little philosophy. Your education, experience, everything is there. It is then the third part is contribution and creation is important for us, everyone. It is not necessary that we have to do any big things. In what job you have to do it right, right? That's important. What you are there, someone is not doing and you are not doing, that is not right. That is a philosophy, understanding every people should have, right? That is what I have followed, so that's what I am telling you. So whatever possible, we should do the things right. That is what you have to do. So that is what solids discuss pollutants which cause obstruction resulting. You can understand what issues they will cause. So pollutant released at a flow rate or concentration causing the interference. That means hydraulic. You can read, I have published many papers. You can also read how the higher flows and high concentrated wastewater cause a shock loading to the treatment system, right? So they will suddenly, one industry say that today I have just the permission to discharge about 1,000 gallons per day. I will discharge 10,000. So today I am cleaning everything. He cannot do like that. If he wants to do, what he can do, he can have a storage tank in himself in the industry. He can do that. Then slowly he can regulate. There are situations like that. If they do numerical violation like that, flow, whatever allotted to them, if they don't have, because one day he is producing 1,000 and another day if he is producing 10,000, he can store in his place. He cannot just disturb there. Right? There are many situations like that. That is what we say that. What if you are allowing, you should talk to them, hey, we are discharging this much, whether possible today or not, we can pay. There are surcharges and all of them. If you are producing the certain cities, what they do is, I tell them, put surcharge. If BOD allowed is 300, if they are producing 500 continuously, then they charge heavily per gallons, this much is this, then they will understand. That is what I told you. If you violate, you have to pay for that. See, then people will understand. That is how simple. In the cities, if you put a parking fine, people will understand. Otherwise, they can park anywhere. If the fine is just 500, people don't value. If you put 5,000, then they will understand. They will leave the things there and come by walk. This is what. That is how the system is built. You have to do that. Why? Because it is the law. That is what they say. So these are the things. And there are certain industries which produce the heated water. Temperature. When you heated water come into your system, what happens? There are biological systems, microorganisms. We will learn more about the biological system. I want you to understand how the biological system is popular and works today also. So if you are living a high temperature wastewater, so what happens? Your whole system will be gone and it will take 3-4 months to recover. A month if you work hard to recover, but you cannot just destroy your treatment plant just because of someone is discharging high temperature. What you can do? There is a solution. If you find, right, you build a tank in your, reduce the temperature, you do whatever you want there. Then you, whatever allowed is there, that only you can discharge. So that is why that the heat in the amounts which will inhibit biological activities, the POTW resulting in an interference. So that is why the person who is in charge of the treatment plant also has a right. See, only this much I can do. They have to be strong, right? So that is how. So oil in amount that will cause interference are possible. That is what I told you. Restaurant, if they are just throwing oil in the sewer system, what happens? You don't want to get spoiled your treatment system, which is built with a crores of rupees, right? So that is why if a person is there, I only tell him he has to do his job properly. People who are there, people who want to take a sample, they should do the job. That is the great contribution you can do, right? If they do their job properly, things will be all right. That is how, if you are a teacher, you will teach correctly, right? Whether, even if you don't do it, is okay. But if that is okay is not for yourself. You are checking yourself. Do it correctly. Otherwise it is just possible our mind, body wants to be lazy sometimes. You have to have a discipline is very important in everybody's career, even me also. I try to put discipline myself. It is not that somebody is watching you, somebody wants to do you, force you, then you are doing, otherwise no. Otherwise it is very easy to become, Some people work, you see, we used to work 12 hours a day. When I was in IIT, 12 hours. If you don't work 12 hours, you can't do. It is possible. So you have to train your mind and this to do that. It has a lot of capability. So that is why, just on the side note, what we do, we should do it perfectly, right? Pollutants which result in presence of toxic gases and vapors and fumes. The toxic substance will cause a havoc in the treatment system. That is why you should take care of. See, if a person who is in charge is not doing is properly, what happens? Toxic substance will just go. How much problems you are causing? You are under things, you are not doing it rightly, and you are allowing them to do the things which are wrong. Toxic will just enter the river. They will spoil all the fish life, everything. Today I will give you an example. Hospital, clinic, they sometimes ask if a small 1 ml, whether they can drain, they can just throw it. I say no, you cannot do that. That 1 ml will go to the river because they are carcinogenic. Whether they are in the soil or in the water, they will remain, right? So if you do that, what happens? Entire thing will spoil. Many people are there from the soil background, right? You understand if it is in the soil, what happens to the crop, and if it is in the water, what happens to the system. So that is how you have to be careful. We have to make sure that we are doing the right things. Okay, I will stop in 5 minutes because we have to go to lunch. I can take 10 minutes. Okay, 10 minutes, we will stop, then you go for a lunch. Then after that, there is a site visit. If it is remaining, I will cover tomorrow, right? Yeah, this is how. I want to just show you some picture quickly. So if it is a methane is there in the sewer system can block. So these things have happened. They have learned the lesson. Once the system is screwed up, then you have to have a law. You cannot discharge this toxics. Yes. See, if it happens, it will spoil the entire system. If they are putting low pH wastewater all the time to the system, if you are not doing the things properly, what happens? See, they are not discharging to treatment plant. They are discharging it to sewer line, because many people, if the big industry is there, they can have a direct pipeline because they cannot just discharge it to the sewer line, big volumes. What they do is they discharge it to the sewer line, right? So small industries, if they are discharging it to the sewer line, what happens? Explosion and corrosion occurs, low pH and toxic substances. If they are discharging it to the wastewater, which consists of a hydrogen sulfide, what happens? Hydrogen sulfide reacts with water, forms sulfuric acid, right? What happens? Even if it is a low concentration, it will start corroding the sewer lines. Big force. People can go down directly. So that is a different aspect. But whole your treatment system is spoiled because people who are there in the system, they are not, if they are not doing the right thing. So that is why these laws came into existence. That is why they are curious. You built a system, sewer system, treatment plant, spending a crores of rupees. If it is not working, who is responsible? I heard one example. I can give you that example later. If treatment plants are built and they are not working, then how we will justify? You cannot just say that system is like this. But there are people who are working in the system. If they are not doing their job properly, those things happen. So these are the examples. Foams, you are most, you may be knowing these examples around you which are going now. Lot of foams in the water. If you are living in a acidic wastewater, what your whole river, you have a great example going on in Delhi, Yamuna river. Right? You see the foams, no? But from where it is come? Well, today everybody is active. What about 10-15 years or long back? Well, I have never noticed. That is what the environment is. Environment is, it has a capability. Mother Earth has a capability to take the system for many, many years. But once it's spoiled, done. How we will rectify? Everyone has to suffer for that. It is not like a network system. If something is wrong, it will not light. Oh, you know this is wrong. You will fix it immediately. But here it is not like. It will allow, and then damages, everybody will be the part of that system. Right? That is, those things happens if they do. This is if the acidic water. So categorical standards, there are certain standards, specific industrial categories, specific process codes. These are the national uniform technology based standards called effluent limitation guidelines. So what happens is, certain industries are there. So there is always a solution. You have made such a big law who makes? People like you and me. You will learn, oh, this is missing. You will write the law. This is not working. We will modify. People like you and me do work for many, many years, so you will do that. What happened? There are some certain things which you may not be knowing. It is missing, but that is coming up. What you do, what you will do, effluent or technology based standards you will create as an engineer or as a technologist, as a scientist. You said, oh, this is not in our regulation, but what you will do, you will ask a professional engineer to prepare a report. What is their effluent, that is your effluent based guidelines you will create. You will create certain, what are the toxicants? Oh, these toxicants are not covered. It is left. There are, because people have created a lot of pollutants. Man-made pollutants are numerous than the normal, right? Normal, the nature can take care of that. That is why you give an example, no? Some years back, people used to drink water from the river, but today, just you can make an worship the river, but not drink water. This is the situation, right? So those are the things. So that is why they have, if it is not covered in your laws, you will make an effluent guidelines. Oh, this is a new effluent. Let us see what are these limits. You can adopt, and then you can go for regulation. You cannot say that, oh, we don't have a regulation, you can start discharging. No, you have that authority to do. So specific pollutant limits, you will put some limits. How? Based on your judgment, experience. You will say, hey, these are the pollutants in this, put this. We will see, monitor. If it is something wrong, we will modify. So this is how that authority. That means at any cost, any industry, any discharger cannot escape. This is not there, I can do. Cannot do. So these are specific pollutant limits, contains direct and indirect discharges standards. So that is all. There is a provision in the industry, because now so many new products are coming up. Who will keep sometimes it is just possible that people were not knowing 10 years back what is PCB, what is PFAS, people were not knowing. So today people know, right? So that is how. And a categorical industry, they want to be more focused in the categorical industry because they produce a lot of toxics. So they want to, as they developed, they put a lot of new regulations. Organic chemicals are there, plastic, synthetic fibers. So they are covered under this. Inorganic chemicals are there, and metal finishers are there, paints are there. See, these are all, we have credit of making these kind of pollutants. We have a credit of making these pollutants, but not taking care of, right? So now when we know, we have to have a solution, right? So that is why these are some of the information they try to cover, have a judgment, make sure that you will reduce, manage by the treatment plant or remove completely. So those are the philosophy. Local has an always, because there are some are smart treatments, they have more privilege, more rights to protect their treatment plants. That is why they can put, suppose a big a monument is there, you can put, there is no clause for air pollution. You can say this is a monument we want to protect. So these are our laws, local. It may not be a central. but those laws are for the local, still they have to follow. So those are things. So chemical specific best management practice, I gave you example of small, even a car wash is there. If they are not discharging it properly, you have the right. So best management, hey guys, these are the things, you cannot do these things, you have to report, you can inspect, take care of this, have a little treatment in that, then make it sure that it is good, then discharge. So that is covered. So additional specific provisions if you have any concern, because certain treatment plants are built with a different design systems, right? Different designs. Okay, right. So we will stop here. We'll have a lunch. Enjoy the lunch. Then I think we are going for a site visit, right? So tomorrow I will cover a little bit of this, and then we will proceed to the next lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for this lecture.
Good morning, everyone. How was your day yesterday? You guys had a good time? Good sleep? Nice, nice. Okay, what we will do here today, yesterday we stopped at some slides. We'll cover the remaining one for the first half an hour, and then I will move to the lecture 3 and 4 later. Okay, so what I suggest is, in the afternoon when I will be taking the tutorials, I will be having a little time for that. So that time we will have an introduction session, right? So in the introduction session, you will have to say what's your name, what's your experience, what are you doing right now, and any of your hobby. You can add one hobby, right? Any hobbies, right? So that we will do. And second one is, by the end of this course, on the 4th day or 5th day, before that, one of you, all of you, one by one, you should speak with me for 2 minutes, wherever you get time, right? That time I will, if you have any questions, you can ask what you are doing, what is your plan, what you expect. If you have any question, I can answer, I will help you. That way we can network, right? If you have any future plans in abroad or networking here, any studies, working in private firms, working in teaching abroad, all that, whatever questions, there is no question like a dumb question. So all questions are fair, right? So you should utilize that time to have a kind of an interaction. If you have any of your particular experience, that also you can share. Okay, we'll see. Yesterday we were talking about the local limits. I explained that the whole system has a 3 layers. One is the federal, where the Environmental Protection Agency, then the state regulation, and the third one is the local. The cities and towns, they can have their own limits, own conditions, so that they can impose on any dischargers, right? But those limits must be more stringent than the state and federal. They cannot be more lenient. So that is what is one of the requirement. And all these local limits must be technically based. Technically based in the sense, what is the capacity of the treatment plant, and what hydraulic loading, what organic loading it can take, what is the capacity of the treatment. That is all included in the technical base. So you will assess how much flow is coming into the system and how it is treated, what kind of treatment system exists. That all is the basis for generating the limits for limits at local. Okay, then site specific developed for each POTW, in the sense that is the treatment plant. If you have each treatment plant is different. You cannot use the same limits when you are developing from other treatment plants, because each treatment plant system, capacity, everything is different. Then developed for each pollutant of concern must be enforceable. Local limit development guidance. There is also a guidance how we should develop. So what is that? Developed for each pollutant of concern. If we see the overall treatment, in some places there are a pollutant of concern, right? It depends. Some areas they may be having a PCB, there is a pollutant in that area exists. Then you can have an additional limits when you are authorizing the discharger to discharge to the treatment plants. Then what is the procedure of the treatment plant? Pre-treatment program must have identify, locate the possible industrial users. It also depends upon the what kind of industry exists in certain area. Certain area there may be a food processing industry. In certain area it is dominated by the categorical industries like a metal industries or metal finishers. In certain area there are industries where winery industries may be there. So accordingly you will have to design the treatment plant. There are two kind of system. One is I have a cities where we have delegated, they have a municipal treatment water system, and also if there are more industries then you cannot discharge all the industrial wastewater to the domestic one. It has a capacity. As yesterday I was telling you, it may be 10%, 15%, or depending upon the capacity. You have to do a technical assessment. That is why I was mentioning about an engineer or professional engineer will design and make sure that your treatment plant is in a good condition with that. So that is why if the industries are more, what you will do? They have a separately designed industrial wastewater treatment plant. I have places, they have a domestic wastewater treatment plant where all the residential wastewater is treated, and they can add, depending upon the number of industries, which it can take the load hydraulically and organically. And if the number of industries are more, they can also have a separate industrial wastewater treatment. Yesterday, that is what you were looking at. That is a common effluent treatment plant, correct? So different industries, they discharge it to certain places. They have an equalization tank. Then they regulate the flow, and industrial, then the industrial water is treated, make it safe, and discharged accordingly. It depends upon the type of the discharging location where you are discharging, whether you are doing a land application or you are discharging it to the sewer, the rivers or streams. So it depends upon that. That is what yesterday we were looking at, the common effluent treatment plant, because you cannot tell the individual discharger to have their own treatment plants. That is why they combine and they integrated. They have an integrated system to collect all the wastewater. They mix it at the equalization tank, because this is it serves two purposes. One is you can regulate the flow, because some of the industries may be discharging intermittently, not regularly, not continuous. It may be possible they may be 1 week they have a process operation, they discharge more, and other time they discharge less. So you cannot just keep on discharging when the treatment plant is the process plant is in operation, and you cannot keep it empty when there is no discharge. So that is why the equalization tank is built. It can regulate the flow, and also the mixing of wastewater takes place there. Suppose an industry producing a low pH wastewater, and there is another industry which produces a higher pH wastewater, so they can neutralize there. So that avoids the treatment, right? So that is how this is these treatment plants are designed. So that is the industrial wastewater treatment plants, right? So identify the characteristics and volume of the pollutant contributed to the wastewater treatment plant by industrial users, and notify the industrial user for applicable pre-treatment standards. Each industry, you will give the limits depending upon the type of industry, what type of wastewater coming out of the facility. Accordingly, you will provide a limits, right? For example, if it is a food processing industry, your focus is more on its BOD removal at the pretreatment site and also removal of suspended solids. That is how it is designed. Receive and analyze the report submitted by the industrial user. So all these industries, they are regulated. What they are discharging, what volume they are discharging, whether they are following the regulations or not. Here also it is the same way. The pollution control board or any authority, they have to make sure that these things are monitored very well. So what procedure must be a POTW pretreatment program? Conduct a random sampling, surveillance and inspection event. Conduct slug discharge evaluation. Investigate instances of non-compliance. Comply with the public participation requirements. What it means? Conduct a random sampling in the sense, if there are certain situations where if you are going for an inspection on a regular day, it may be scheduled or unscheduled. If you have a suspicion, there is the data which are given by the industrial users are little confusing, then you can have a random sample. You can go at any time and sample them. Then you can compare, see whether really they are doing the job. That is kind of the next step that will lead to the enforcement or the warning or what steps should be taken for that industries. That is all evaluated. Conduct a sludge discharge evaluation. Sludge discharge in the sense, I think yesterday Deepak uploaded a glossary document. You might have gone through that. Don't just leave in the system. I want that you should print or read that, understand. So those are the terms. Slug discharge evaluation in the sense, a big hydraulic load is coming into the system. That is what I gave an example yesterday. Sometimes what happens, the discharge is 1,000 gallons per day and sometimes 10,000 gallons per day. You cannot do that. Any discharger cannot do that. So they should have an equalization tank and regulations. If the slug occurs, then they must have a communication with the receiving end to make sure that it is handled properly. Right? So investigate the instances of non-compliance. So always you will tabulate how many times they do violations. Right? So you can't expect any system built 100% correct. We know all the industry, there are so many changes. There may be upset, there may be a power loss, or there may be wrong sampling. Many things happens. But if they are happening once or twice, then if you are okay with the kind of explanation they give, if you feel it is a genuine, then you can allow them and make sure that those things never occur in the next time. Right? Comply with the public participation is an important component. Wherever the industries are there, it is kind of a requirement to make sure that the public in that place must know what is going on. They have the right to know what kind of activities are going on, whether it is taken care of or not. Right? They have the right to know. So industrial wastewater survey, identify and locate industrial users subject to pretreatment program requirement, pretreatment series, industrial users and survey procedure. That is what I mentioned little bit yesterday. You will have to do a survey what kind of industries are there, whether they require a permit or not, whether they require an authorization or not. If they are producing the wastewater which is similar to the domestic wastewater, then it can be considered they can discharge. They may not need an authorization from you guys. So that is the person in authority, the controlling authority have to make a decision. If it is delegated, if it is directly issued by the government or the board or any authority which controls, which implement all the environmental regulations in that location, then they can make a determination whether they really need or they do not, right? So there are control mechanisms. What it says that the control through permits, orders, similar means the contribution from each industrial user to ensure compliance with applicable pretreatment standards and requirements can be achieved through individual or at a general permit. What is the general? There are many industries which produce a very small quantity of wastewater. They say that we produce that intermittently, once in a week, once in 2 weeks. So in that case, they have a storage tank at the place, and then they can, when it is filled, then it is taken to the nearest treatment plant and then. So that determination has to be made. Those are the control mechanisms, how these individual industry, depending upon the type of industry, small or a medium or a bigger one, that the determination has to be made by the controlling authority. Then who to permit? That is, the determination has to be made. I talked a little bit about the significant industrial user, in the sense who are having a 25,000 gallons per day of discharge continuously. In that case, you have the actions, and you should need a monitoring, proper monitoring. They will make a big impact on the treatment plants, right? So, and a categorical industry, that's I explained already, where even the volume is low, and they can make a lot of impact on the treatment plant as far as the interference is concerned, and also the pass-through is concerned, because they may contain a toxic substances. That is why you will have to make sure, irrespective of the volume, however it is, it may be 1,000 gallons, 500 gallons, like that. So optional permits, non-significant industrial user, non-significant categorical user, waste haulers, and ground remediation sites. In the sense, there are situations, they are non-significant industrial user, in the sense they produce a very small quantity. You cannot put a more regulations on them, right? That determination you will have to make. If they are following, if they are collecting their wastewater, but you have the right to go and see whether really they are doing the stuff or not. So in those cases, you can collect, they should be able to collect the wastewater, store it in their place. It depends type of the wastewater they produce. If it is hazardous, then there are different regulation, how many days they can store on the system, how they are storing, whether they have a secondary containment, whether they are storing in a proper containment. There should not be any leakage. A lot of workers will be working in that area. You should make sure that you should work for their safety, whether they are each worker working in the process plant is having a proper protective equipments. So all those things have to be seen in case of a categorical industry. And here is the picture. You see, some people, they will just stop the truck and drain the wastewater in the manholes, right? So that is why what they do is, they will try to find out, they will keep a camera there, they will see who is doing this, right? They follow. So you should, that kind of an attention is paid to this kind of system, right? And who gives this authorization? Pre-treatment permit, I have already mentioned EPA, and the reasons in the sense, the state has an four, maybe having a 4 reasons, 5 reasons, 2 reasons, depending upon the size. So there is kind of an understanding there. It is exists everywhere, how our MLA, MP areas are decided. Similarly, the reasons are decided here, how they do that. So NPDES approved state permits, in the sense if they are discharging it to the rivers, Rivers are to be protected at any cost. No one has a right to destroy the very ecosystem because it is interconnected. People drinking water, a lot of fish will be affected, and the whole ecosystem is spoiled if the water quality is destroyed. It also enters the food chain if there is a contaminant in the water. So that is why you can understand the gravity of importance, how much the people involved in the system should be careful. That is why I was more emphasizing on the responsibility, how much responsibility lies. They cannot just take it lightly because it has a multiple effect on the total system, right? So then that is the controlling authority, in the sense whoever may be, who is monitoring, that is the indication. And these are the industrial users, significant industrial users. They also need an authorization to discharge. And compliance monitoring, how you will monitor, can be announced, unannounced. Suddenly you can go and see the sampling, and also can be conducted independently or in conjunction with the compliance inspections used to satisfy the federal requirement. And sample must be taken with sufficient care to provide defensible data, in the sense your data which is collected, you should make sure that it is a representative data, right? It should represent, the measurement is very important in the system. If no measurement, no pollution. That is what happens in the many cases. So that is why your data should be defensible, because big industries, if you take a sample wrongly, they may go to jurisdiction, they may go to court. You should be able to defend when you are taken, because other side also the competent people will be there. In fact, there will be much competent people will be on other side, right? So you should be strong enough, technically sound, to understand its implications, what you are doing, whether you are doing it right or wrong, right? Make sure that, that is why your learning should be always open. How you do the things, you should do it independently, understand the consequences when you do any work in the system, right? So that is what it mentions. And compliance monitoring, there are series of documents how you can do the compliance. When you say the enforcement, you cannot just do the enforcement, right? You should have a proper documents to thinking that it may go to the higher level, it may go to the great extent. You should be able to defend the data what you have collected, the procedure what you have followed. That is why you might have heard about the standard methods are there, and different people who are having the chemistry background and environmental background, they will be knowing what are the standards, what are the methods you will have to follow. That is why there are many guidance document available at a federal, state level, how you can do the analysis. That is why one of the requirement is you should have an analysis done at an accredited lab, not the random one. There are accredited lab, in the sense they have a reputation, they have a standards, regulations, what to do, how to handle sample. They are well trained. This is the third party. There are many industries where they have their own staff who can do everything, but they should be certified and trained. So that is what it says, right? That is what I just mentioned, one picture there where surveillance is required. If you find any suspicious activities, there are many ways how you can handle those things, right? So there are different ways, different middle tier and a significant industrial user, minor industrial user, that there are number of categories exist. You can divide them accordingly and give the privilege, how they can discharge, how they can handle the wastewater produced by the facility independent, right? Then the enforcement, that is always there. If they are not following the regulations, then the ultimate is warning and make them understand, then the penalty. Then the enforcement response plan is important. It gives the steps, what are the steps you should follow if you want to go for an enforcement, because you should understand that it may end up in the court, it may end up in the judiciary. Then you should be able to defend your data, what procedure you have given a sufficient time to the industrial users, what they have done, how you have educated them, whether you have informed them, you have warned them. Systematically it has to be done in order to take any action, right? Then the funding and personal equipment is always important. I always believe that people who are working in the system, they must have protective equipments, and if they are working in the measurement system, then they must have proper equipment and proper training. Those things are very important. Things change. If the people who are giving you the data is not just the number, it is the language of the treatment plant. It says this data means you can predict what is happening, what is the health of the wastewater treatment system. That is how you can predict and understand, and accordingly the action can be taken, right? Record keeping is also important. You will have to keep the proper record for many years. If it is challenged, then you should be able to show it to the required authorities that these things have really happened, and also the records are maintained. There is a proper management system. Some of the records are maintained for 3 years, 5 years, it depending upon that. Then when you are accepting the wastewater from the industrial user, you should make clear for how many years these data are going to be in our system, right? Some data, if there is a litigation, you have to keep it forever until the litigation is over. Some cities decide 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and some data has to be forever until everything is done, right? And public participation, I have talked about that. You have to involve the public. Public has the right to know what is going on in the system, right? And the annual reporting system, every industrial user, if it is a delegated city, has to submit a detailed report, what is happening, what is the total discharge, how they are taken care of, and what are the consequences if there are any upsets in the system, how they dealt, what action they did. That is all the record, and you should have a system. Once any violation occurs, then how it triggers different system, how we will follow, because today one person may be knowing, but he may work for a few years and go away. Then the other person who is coming into the job, he must know what procedure should be followed, right? The proper training and the documentation is required here. So industrial user responsibilities, I have mentioned what are the issues with the potential slug loading and sampling and the changed discharges. It happens. Some people do go for an expansion, then you will have to revise the limits, and you will have to revise the procedure, how that has to be managed. Every industry wants to expand. The old stuff doesn't continue. Then that has to be modified accordingly. And notification of bypass is important. Sometimes, in the industry, what happens? Large wastewater is produced. Our treatment plant is upset. Then you give and authorize them to bypass. But anyway, it is not going directly to the rivers. That will make a problem. If they are discharging it to the another treatment plant with the pre-treatment, then you will give a little bypass notification the industrial user must give, so that they can be prepared, understand how that the wastewater which is coming out suddenly has to be taken care of, right? Oh, right. So I have already talked much about the categorical industrial users reporting requirement, because they are consist of maybe a toxic substance, So we must be more careful about those kind of wastewater coming into the system, right? This is the same periodic reports, 90 days compliance report. You can specify, you can give if any big expansion is going on, you can always specify you have to submit the report in 3 months or 6 months, like that. Then other significant industrial user reporting, periodic compliance report, sludge discharge control plan, all should be in place. If suddenly any discharge happens, then they should have a plan in the industry itself. If there is a sudden upset, if there is a sudden spill, how they will take care. So that is why that plan has to be approved, right? You see in this situation what he will do, what actions will do, step by step procedures have to be there, because people may be working in the night. It is not in a one person job, people will turn around. So every person should know their job. That is why I was specifically telling that people who are working, they must know their job, and they must do their responsibility, discharge their responsibility very well. So that is the very intent of these reporting system. All SRs are required to conduct a self-monitoring system. So they should assess themselves whether they are doing it right, whether they need any changes. That is shows they have to conduct. That is the self-evaluation. Then there is also the procedure where the signatory and certification requirement, baseline monitoring report, 90 days compliance report. So why I am telling is, you can understand the regulation side. After this lecture, you are going to see how you are going to treat the wastewater. First, you should have a system. Once it fails, what you will do, how we will bring all these industrial users or a discharger into one common system, right? So that is what we are talking about. Then industrial users record keeping. So that the record keeping is also done on the industrial side, industrial user side, and also on the regulator side. This is the National Pretreatment Program Manual, which is given in detail how the regulation is. Three-layer regulation takes place at the federal and the state level and the local levels. Major changes have occurred time to time. I have told sometimes people won't be knowing, right? So that time you should go step forward and modify the system existing. Then there are given the industrial pretreatment program responsibility and the different dischargers, what are their responsibilities, what they should follow. All can be step by step procedure has to be done before discharging, right? Domestic wastewater facility discharge, these are the standards I have just mentioned in briefly. It may change from place to place depending upon the type of industries existing and type of the town. I mean, whether it is a small one or a big one, they have any issues really with the cities, towns, treatment systems. So 30 milligram per liter, 5 days BOD, suspended solids, fecal coliform, and the pH. These are some of the standards, and also some of the pollutant of concern. If they are there, then you need any additional requirements for that. And number of, we will deal these things in the next lectures, where what are the different kind of biological treatment and how the stabilization plant, trickling filter, wastewater treatment plant, combined sewer, case by case basis, and treatment plant receiving minimum concentrated influent wastewater. We will see how they are dealt in the next lectures, where we learn more about the treatment side. Then pollution effects on the soils and crop. I have already explained about that. All the three components, water, air, and the lands, are affected. Number of pollutants. There is a climate change, water pollution, microplastic, and pesticides what you use for the plants. That all changes the very fundamentals of the ecosystem, right? And protection of soils and crops, because I said whatever the contaminant is discharged to the system, if they are not taken care properly, not treated well, it will enter the food chain through the crops, right? Fertilizers also, people use a lot of fertilizers everywhere now. It is a fashion now. Organic has come back again, and that has become a fashion also now. So these fertilizers, they use about 40 to 50%, 50 to 60%, and rest will just drain off. They are one of the major contributors for our nutrient removals. Right? I think we came to the end of this lecture number 2. And if you have any question, we can always talk about this. I have took a little more time to make you understand how this overall the regulatory system works. There should be someone to control, oversee, right? That is what it highlights. You have seen the different layers, what are the manuals, what are the type of industry, how they are taken care of, and various components in the treatment systems, and how the regulation is applied to the treatment system and the people, industrial users, and how the participations of the people also plays an important role in the overall systems, right? I think, thank you. If you have any question, we can talk again. Yes, go ahead.
After treatment of the industrial wastewater, so there are some are transferred to the rivers, and there are some industries which are near seas, so they transfer it to the marine water. So the system is different for the transfer in rivers and for the sea, or the same? Is there any difference? Because seawater is different from fresh water, their salinity, the TDS, everything is different, so the requirement is there different.
Good question. But you cannot discharge to the sea just like that. It has to be, see the quality of wastewater you are discharged. You need an, whether you have to discharge to the sea, how you are going to discharge, it all comes to the surface at the shore. You cannot just discharge. Earlier, maybe, I have seen some people have done that, but now the regulation doesn't allow that. Without treatment, you cannot discharge to sea at all.
So that's what I'm asking. The treatment, the procedure of the treatment of the systems, are there any another equipment used for the treatment? The system is it same for the fresh water and the marine water, which are used by industries?
There is no regulation where you can just discharge it to marine waters.
That's not, I'm asking for the treatment. There are equipment, there's a process. So the process is it same for the fresh water and for the marine waters?
No, marine water process is different because it has already a high salt contents, and we have dealt with that many times, where the seawater is used for the air conditions and all before, but nowadays nobody use. You will have to scrap the entire system within 4 to 5 years. They never use it. Right?
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir. I have one question.
Okay, we'll put the third one, right?
Sir, can we use wastewater in energy generation or fuel, etc.?
You can use, we generate, we will study in these lectures. If the wastewater, we treat them anaerobically, and the methane is generated, that can be used it for the energy purpose.
One
There are
another
many
question
cases.
also, sir. In rainy season, how to maintain the wastewater treatment plant in rainy season?
Yes, that is true. But you have to consider that dilution, right? You cannot cover that whole system. You will also account for the volume of the water entering into the system. And if you go to the cold countries, they cover that because of the temperatures, right? So, but here they are open system. Yesterday you have seen that if they are a clarifier and other stuff, there will be always the addition of that water. It makes a dilution. It doesn't harm that way. Right?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So I want yesterday we saw the processing plant which treats the water. So as you told us, it was open. The area was open. So there I see many breeding ground for mosquito and insects. So
Always.
so
That's
there.
why they are more resistant for mosquitoes and others.
Yes, sir. So and there would be many microorganisms also in that water.
Yes.
So if we use that water for plantation, for agriculture, so the microorganism from the water will affect the plants. No, they will affect their growth.
No, though they are not that kind of a microorganisms. I will tell you in this lecture how much they are useful, those
So
microorganisms. They will not affect any plant or any plant.
even fungus present there. No, it
No,
will.
we use fungal bacteria for the treatment. People may be knowing,
Okay.
many people
Thank you.
that. We'll see that those
Okay.
kind of treatments.
Thank you.
Right?
Good morning, sir. Sir, I have a question.
Okay.
Sir, as we are studying that there are so many rules that government is imposing on the industries, and industries are also claiming that they are discharging under the standard limits. But we are seeing that still there is so much pollution and eutrophication in the rivers. What are the possible reasons for this?
How much percent of wastewater is treated here?
Like
Very
it
less.
depends on the industry.
Very less. There are some industries,
Yes.
many industries are just, they are not taking care of. That is the responsibility of the regulator or the
Yes.
people who are involved in that system to make sure that they are really doing the job. That's what I said. The number is has to be, it should be supported. It should be a representative, whether that really number is right. That is the responsibility of the people who are
Yes.
monitoring that. They should do their job correctly. If it is wrong, then they can take always an action. So if you are tomorrow, if you become an manager for a treatment plant, it is your responsibility whether those things are right or not. If you are on this side, then it is responsibility whether they are doing it right, because at one situation I was on both sides, right? So it is both sides. You should know what are the consequences, and whether they are doing the right things, what is wrong going on. You should be able to
We can
understand.
say that there are still the loopholes in the discharge.
That loophole has to be fixed by them only, right?
Good morning, sir. Okay, so you have given this regulatory, it's based on US, right? Okay, so my question is, how can India achieve such kind of like a state like US in terms of this wastewater treatment?
Correct. So that was the very intent of this program. Just this is the model. Similar models are here also, right? So only they have to be implemented properly. People like you, tomorrow you go and see where are the issues in the system. You educate the people, bring the more regulations, more stringent regulations. Make sure that somebody has to do it, right? So that is the very intent. People who are there in the system, they should do that first. Then slowly they can modify. You have to keep the step forward to make sure that the system works. Who will do? Public participation, and the resources have to be provided. make sure that things are working it properly, right?
Thank
It
you,
is the
sir.
responsibility of everyone. Okay. We'll go to the third one.